What's going on, YouTube? Warstorm here, coming at you guys with another video today. Today I'll be bringing you guys an updated Metalfoe list, kind of with the new Link monster from Link Brain's Electrum. Then I'll have show you guys like one replay that I have with the deck, so you guys can kind of see it in action. Kind of like to actually, it's always good to see that something works, and the video will be a little short due to being like a Metalfoe kind of deck profile, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this list. Pure Metalfoes are playable again. One of the issues I did notice with Metalfoes in their Master Rule 4 is that there's a constant issue where you can only set so many Metalfoe spells and traps. Granted, with a pure build, it's not as much of an issue because you're playing, but you can't. The thing is, with Metalfoe spells and traps, you can't play too many because you don't want to draw them. And if you play too many, under Master Rule 4, you weren't going to have space. Now with Electrum and the 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit we now have, the deck is very, it's playable again. So go ahead and get to the deck profile. So I am maxing out on all the Metalfoe names we have. I feel like this main deck ratio is what I ran in my regional list, and I swear by it. It's, some people play less copies of Steelin, and you definitely can. You don't really technically, quote-unquote, need the 3 Bismugears, but I just like the ratio this way. It's similar to my Magician list. I'm going back to the ratios that worked, and I just feel like this is the best link for the list. So the other cards, besides the Metalfoe names, which I'm maxing out at 18, I have the 2 Luster Pendulums. I've seen a lot of builds only playing 1, and you can get away with 1, but I feel like Luster Pendulum is one of the strongest cards for Metalfoes because they have issues dealing with non-targetable monsters such as Dark Destroyer, Borreload, etc. They give this deck a ton of problems, and at least with this kind of a build, so I feel like the 2 Lusters are a pretty decent number. Then the 2 Astrograph Sorcerers, Astrograph and Electrum, have crazy interactions. Basically, Astrograph and Metalfoes go together anyways, but now with Electrum, it's nutty because whenever you destroy a Metalfoe, you can special summon Astrograph from your hand and then search a copy of the card that was destroyed, and then Astrograph plus another monster equals your Electrum. Really strong plus play for the deck, and I highly recommend. 3 got a little cloggy, that's why it's in here at 2, even though it's one of the strongest cards in the deck. You really don't want to open multiples. Then 2 copies of Archfiend Eccentric. Card I was glad I actually added back in, actually. Eccentric's been a really strong card because you can use it to unbrick your hand by popping your own combination. Which, in my regional list, I was playing 3, but due to space issues, I only have 2 in here. But it's one of the strongest cards in the deck. It's a scale. It pops your own combination, unbrick your hand, and clears any kind of annoying threat for the deck. Then 3 Rescue Rabbits. Can't say enough about the card. This being back at 3 helps this deck so much. Granted, it can suck up a normal summon, and it can get ashed, but a lot of times baiting out an ash before you make a big push is really strong. And when it doesn't get ashed, it's basically a 1-card Electrum, and that's really, really good. Then 2 Ash and 1 Max C. I noticed playing any more than this, hand trap-wise, tended to brick. If you want to play more, I would highly recommend bumping the card count up a little bit after this 40-card number. But if playing any more hand traps, they tended to clog up my hand, at least in testing. Then for the plan engine, I only have the 3 Baboons and the 1 Glow-Up Bulb. I tried the Predaplan engine and other things, but I found it just clogged up, sucks up a normal summon, and just adds a lot of bricky cards. I found the 3 Baboons was really, really strong, and it was pretty much all you really need. If you really wanted more plants, you could definitely play Mathematician and maybe like a couple Mathematicians and a Dandelion, but I find that this has kind of been the best ratio. But Baboon and Metalfoes is absolutely amazing. You get a free rank 3 and kind of put dead cards back in your deck is always a really strong play. Speaking of Bulb, only the 1 Bulb because you bring it out with the Jasmine here. The main thing to note is Bulb. Well, Jasmine does enable a second Omega. If you have a Volflame and a Glow-Up Bulb, you can make an Omega, then make a second Omega using Bulb's Grave Effect. Didn't really come up too much, but there's been a couple of combo sequences where I wanted the second Bulb. It's really up to you, or I wanted the second Omega, but the extra deck space is super, super packed, so you really just don't have room for it. For the Metalfoe spells and traps, I'll kind of go over this thing. I only have 1 of each, 1, 1, 1, 1. I've seen other ratios. I've seen a lot of people say you could play the second counter to recycle extra deck space, and that does come up on occasion. But I just don't think you really need more than this, unless you're playing a different kind of a build. I feel like this is the best ratio. It's worked for me, worked in the regional list. Don't really need more than that. Then 2 Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires and Metalfoes go together. You have 18 cards in your deck that basically all do the same thing, and you don't really need multiple copies of them after your initial combo plays. Just make sure if you set your Metalfoe spells and traps before activating this, it's not really an issue, and it's really good in the deck. Then 2 Painful Decisions. I don't really think you need 3. It is a hard once per turn. 2 is kind of a good number for it. But if you're playing a higher card count, you can definitely bump this up to 3. The 1 Upstart Goblin, just filler card. I don't really know what else to put in for consistency reasons. And the 1 counter and the 1 combination mentioned earlier. For Link Monsters, I have the 2 Electrum. The second one does come up, but this card is amazing. So whenever it's Link Summon, it can add 1 Pendulum Monster from your extra deck face up. Then its second effect allows you to target a face-up card you control other than itself to add 1 Pendulum Monster from your extra deck to your hand. And then if a Pendulum Monster card in your Pendulum Zone leaves the field, you draw a card. That is a once per turn, but the other effects are not. Electrum is brutally amazing. It helps Pendulums so much, and I'm just glad it is even a thing. But it really helps this deck because now you can make a lot of those plus plays you couldn't really make before because it is a Metalfoe name, so you can use it as fusion materials for your Mithrilium, for your Orichalc, for your Alcahest. It counts as a Metalfoe, so that actually is really cool because you can fuse it away, and then Mithrilium can add it back to the extra deck. It's better in other decks, but in Metalfoes, it has tons of synergy with the deck. Then the 1 Jasmine for the Baobab play I mentioned earlier. It's kind of nice that it opens up 2 zones with 1 card is always nice, and being able to summon a Glow Up Bulb and Synchro Summon from your deck is always good. Then the Skulldeed. Now, Skulldeed is a card that we're going to be getting in Extreme Forces, and it is really good. It's a little easier to summon than Borreload because it doesn't require effect monsters, which can be problematic for this deck sometimes because they're all normal monsters for the most part. But Skulldeed has some pretty cool effects depending on how many monsters with different names you use to summon it. If you use 2, it gives you ability when a monster is summoned to the zone. It gives 300 attack and defense, which can be useful for getting over big monsters. The main thing you care about, and it can special summon a monster once per hand if you use 3, but the best effect is 4, which if it's Link Summon, when it is Link Summon with using 4 monsters with different names, you can draw 4 cards, then put 3 on the bottom of your deck. It's basically just a massive mulligan for your hand, and I can't wait to have a copy of this card because it is a really strong card. Then, speaking of Borreload, the 1 Borreload helps, even though it does require effect monsters, there's times where you do need it to kind of clear non-targetable threats. Alternatively, you could play a Utopia package, but the extra deck is just so tight. I feel like this is just the better option. It's not that hard to summon. You can kind of use some link climbing combos to get it out, and it can then steal an opponent's monster and link summon with it, so that's pretty neat. Then for the rank 3s, the 1 Breaksword. Breaksword is pretty cool because it can clear itself out of the extra monster zone, which is really nice. And then we have the 1 Grand Pulse. It still comes up on occasion, being able to pop your own combination to kind of unbrick your hand, but it also has it does have a weird attribute and a weird typing, so you can always, it's not the easiest thing to do to link it away, but it's pretty nice for kind of like clearing back row, and you can cut it if you don't feel like it'll come up. Then the 1 Mequip, it's nice to have an option to make a rank 3 when you don't want to make Jasmine. You can have an option to make a rank 3 that can defend your board. Mequip's pretty decent. Then for the Metalfoe fusion of the 3 Mithrilium, it might seem like a little overkill, but the 3rd one does come up. You could play an Adamantite instead, so you can, fuse away your monsters stolen with your little Alcahest over here, but it's really up to you. Mithrilium is just the best fusion, so I just kind of like maxing out on it. Then the 1 Orichalc, it's really nice for if you have this and summon this underneath the Skulldeed, it'll be at 3100, which you can get over big things like Borreload Dragon, and it does pop a card when it's destroyed and allows your Metalfoe monsters to do double piercing, which is quite strong. Then the 1 Alcahest, really pretty nice card for being able to steal your opponent's monsters. It's a very good defensive player, and you're being able to make this middle of an opponent's combo. It can be really strong, and overall, I just feel like, you can fusion summon for 2, but the second one rarely comes up anymore. Then the 1 Cyberframe Lord Omega. Omega's really strong. I don't think we have too much to say about it. You can make it easily with a Glow Up Bulb here and a level 7 monster. And you could definitely find room for the second one, maybe Trim and Mithrilium for space, but I find Omega to be a pretty decently strong card, definitely worth your extra deck space. And the 1 Ignister. Ignister, not too much to say. You make it with your Luster Pendulum over here and just remove anything with non-targeting. and having the second luster means you'll probably have a target to summon from the deck. So anyway, guys, about comes the end of the Metalfoe deck profile, so I'll go ahead and move on to the replay. Shiro is actually testing a little bit against Volits here, so you're kind of getting, this is with the new field spell that's from what is it, Extreme Forces, which is the next set. So I think I did get the start. So I went ahead and upstart Goblin, and I did have the Bismugear in hand, so I went ahead and set the full Metalfoes from my deck, and then I went ahead and summoned the Silver and set the counter in passing. My thinking with this kind of a play was, I'm guessing I could have I would need to be able to Pendulum Summon or get something out. So I could have maybe possibly popped the Bismugear and had the full Metalfoes be live, but I feel like this was the best play because I feel like the counter was probably going to get off this turn. So he activates Terraforming, so part of the reason I didn't activate, I'm not a huge fan of ashing and Terraforming, not knowing what deck my opponent's playing, so I went ahead and just let the field spell go through, and then the Pot of Desires comes down. I'm definitely going to ash that. I'm not going to give my opponent 2 more cards to work with. Then the Squib Draw does come down. He also Dark Holes me, which means all of his Volits are going to get their effects, so I went ahead and summoned the Volflame from the deck, and he gets 3 end phase summons effects, which is pretty dang good. And Metalfoes aren't, so I had to figure out how to get over it. So I went ahead and summoned the Gold Driver and went for Electrum, and now we kind of get to see how strong Electrum is. So I went ahead and set the Astrograph Sorcerer, then popped the Bismugear, and that triggers the effect of Electrum to let me draw a card, and I went ahead and popped and since I went ahead and drew another Scale, I popped my Silvered with Electrum's effect, then added the Astrograph. We went ahead and had a mass Pendulum Summon, and then Mithrilium, and then I had to have the Mithrilium on the field, so I was able to Fusion Summon for an Orichalc to get the, main thing I wanted to do was get some of these Volits off the board, because it wasn't going to be an easy thing to do because they do have high defense points. Went ahead and did some nice piercing damage here. Went ahead and passed turn, activate the counter to add something back to hand, have the full Metalfoes live on my opponent's turn, and went ahead and searched with the Bismugear on the end phase. Opponent does get 2 Volit effects. So he went ahead and draws into another Squib Draw, which, is not great for me. He's drawing more cards, drawing more dead field spells. And he went ahead and summoned the Undercloak Talker. I went ahead and, Metalfoes fusioned away the monster he had. And then when he went for this dragon here, I wasn't going to let him continue going. So went ahead and just got the 3 Blast Dragon equipped to my Alcahest. And at this point, I was playing like also Hollow Fiber and stuff. So that's why you see the Hollow here. So I got the Baboon, placed it on the bottom. And that was pretty much game at this point. And overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the deck, though I do think that it is pretty decent to see I'm just happy to see Metalfoes playable again, on any kind of level. So anyway, guys, always thank you guys for watching my video today. I really appreciate it when you guys watch my videos. Tune in later this weekend. I will have a collaboration video up for you guys talking about link summoning. Anyway, guys, always thank you guys for watching. So Aurostorm signing out.